On the 17th of February 2025, Delta Airlines Flight 4819 crashed while attempting to land at Toronto Pearson International Airport in Canada. The aircraft was a Bombardier CRJ900 operated by Endeavour Air on behalf of Delta Airlines. At this point, the details are limited, but from my professional point of view, I want to offer a few observations as to the cause and subsequent crash which may help some people to understand it a little more. The aircraft had 76 passengers on board and 4 crew members, so was likely nearly full. It had taken off from Minneapolis, and the flight time was approximately 1.5 hours. The important part is the weather and approach into Toronto. The weather was fairly rough, with the wind at 270 degrees at 28 knots, gusting 35 knots for runway 23, so the wind was off by 50 degrees. There was blowing snow and a slightly contaminated runway with approximately 10% of compacted snow. At 14:13 local time, Delta Airlines Flight 4819 entered the final stages of the approach. They were configured correctly and using the crab technique to combat the drift from the crosswind. This is where things go wrong. As they kick off the drift and align the aircraft with the runway, they slightly dip the right wing to combat the drift. This is normal and a correct procedure, but this is where the speculation on my part comes in. You'd expect to see the aircraft attempt to flare. This is where the pilots slow the rate of descent before touchdown. But this does not happen. The aircraft slams into the ground, and it would appear that the landing gear collapses, and then the right wing strikes the ground, causing it to detach from the aircraft. I am one to wait for the investigation to take place before discussing any facts, but in this case, it would appear that there could have been a very heavy gust or a quick change in wind conditions through perhaps some wind shear or downdraft during those final stages. This could have caused the aircraft and right wing to drop further and faster than expected. The lack of flare could also be attributed to an incorrect pressure setting set by the crew. This is usually set in inches of mercury or hectopascals and varies throughout the day and through the year. If an incorrect pressure setting was selected by the flight crew, it could have shown the ground incorrectly, perhaps 100 feet or so, which could have explained the lack of flare. This is probably the least likely reason, as this is checked by both crew members and air traffic control on many occasions, plus they will have a radar altitude readout which verbally confirms the distance from the aircraft to the ground, no matter what pressure setting is set. A further contributing factor may have been the weight of the aircraft. Its max landing weight is approximately 34,000 kilograms or 75,000 pounds. Still unlikely, but with a full passenger load and a relatively short flight of 1.5 hours, the aircraft may have still been quite heavy on landing. To put this into perspective, there was a previous incident in 2021 where a CRJ900 operated by Jazz experienced a hard landing in Vancouver, where its hard landing was recorded at 2.8 G. The landing gear remained intact, but after an inspection needed to be replaced. This is just a thought to what these passengers and crew of this Endeavour flight experienced. As for them, the impact must have been much greater for the landing gear to have collapsed. One final point is that the miracle of everyone surviving was part in luck that the wing, which was once damaged, then separated from the aircraft. There are fuel tanks in the wing, and as you can see from the video, they initially ignite, but then luckily break away from the fuselage. It's also a factor that the compounded snow, as I discussed earlier, would have had an effect and appeared to play its part in subduing the fire and ensuring the safety of the passengers. We will wait for the investigation to take place before finding out more. I just wanted to provide my thoughts as a pilot to potentially give a little understanding on what could have happened. I also originally wanted to make this as a 30-second short, but clearly I had much more to say than I thought, so hopefully that was helpful, or I apologise if it was too long. Please discuss it with me more down in the comments. I hope you're having a great day, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.